Harley Quinn is one of the more complex and controversial characters in the DC universe. Depictions of her abusive relationship with the Joker range from sympathetic to outright misogynistic. In this video essay, I'll be using different versions of Harley Quinn from TV shows and movies to examine the psychological and gender dynamics at play as we see her transform from victim to sex symbol to independent anti-hero. In order to fully understand Harley Quinn, we first have to know who she was before she met the Joker.
When I was a kid, my dad traded me for a six-pack of beer. But however many times he tried to ditch me, I kept coming back. Eventually, he found me a new home. The Good Sisters of St. Bernadette's taught me a lot.
As we can see, she went through several adverse childhood experiences. Her background contributes to her risk of mental illness, her vulnerability to abusive relationships, and her violent behavior later in life. This does resemble a traditional trauma plot in some ways, but her backstory isn't really dwelled on. Instead of it serving as an excuse that lends her moral superiority, her trauma is simply framed as an explanation for her vulnerability to the Joker's manipulation. Before she was Harley Quinn, she was Dr. Harlene Quinzel, a psychiatrist who treated patients in Arkham Asylum. This part of her identity is really central to her transformation. She wants to be able to trace the Joker's actions back to a traumatic event in his past, and the Joker takes advantage of this by lying to her about his childhood to gain her sympathy.
You know, my father used to beat me up pretty badly. Or sometimes I'd be just sitting there doing nothing. Pow!
Harley doesn't want to just observe the Joker. She wants to intervene and help him, even if that leaves her in a vulnerable position that may be exacerbated by past adverse childhood experiences. We can see in their initial interactions how the Joker seemed to be the one with the power to observe. It's this reversal of the typical power dynamics in a psychiatrist-patient relationship that the Joker is able to manipulate Harley into doing his bidding. Once the Joker has Harley under his control, she changes her identity, breaks him out of prison, and they become a crime couple together, I guess. But their relationship is problematic on a number of levels. I want to focus in for a second on the Mad Love episode of the new Batman Adventures cartoons because this illustrates the cycle of abuse really well, I think. So, at the beginning of the episode, we're seeing the tension building phase. Harley's trying to appease the Joker and make everything perfect for him. In the acute battering phase, the Joker gets angry with Harley for executing his evil plan better than he could, so he pushes her out of a high-rise. She gets super injured and vows to move on from this toxic relationship.
I finally see that slime for what he is.
In the calm phase, also known as the honeymoon phase, the Joker leaves Harley a rose and a loving note in her prison cell. Her resolve melts because he's acting like he loves her again. Pretty tragically, she stays in the relationship, and that's actually how it often goes for victims of intimate partner violence. In terms of the mental illness that Harley Quinn might suffer from, DC never gives her an official diagnosis or label. Fans speculate that she may suffer from histrionic personality disorder, but this diagnosis in and of itself is very gendered. Descriptions of HPD include the features of self-dramatization, engagement in seductive interpersonal behaviors, exaggerated emotional displays, and chronic attention-seeking behaviors. A core organizing theme for individuals with this personality style is an emphasis on the use of gender and sexuality as a means of securing influence and control over perceived powerful others, typically of the opposite sex. The disorder actually has roots in hysteria, which we now know was kind of just a way to label and control deviant women. HPD is more commonly diagnosed in women than men. I don't know if slapping a diagnosis onto Harley Quinn is the most productive way to read her depictions. But I will say that Harley does tend to use her sexuality for her own gain. But I don't think she can be villainized for this, honestly. If she's going to be viewed as a sexual object, as I'm going to talk about in a second, it kind of only makes sense that she'd use that as a form of power for herself. The first Suicide Squad movie, I think, illustrates how Harley Quinn is sexualized and how her abusive relationship is romanticized. Not to shit all over this movie, like, there are some good aspects to it. Kind of. Not really, but the writing, costuming, and framing all make Harley a one-dimensional character who only exists for men's visual pleasure. There's weird, unnecessary shots of her ass, weird, unnecessary moments where dudes lust over her. She's always showed as an object to be viewed rather than a subject to identify with. Additionally, her sexuality is depicted as uninhibited and loose as a symptom of her craziness. There's definitely a weird, notion that crazy women are more sexual or better in bed, which ties back into her potential histrionic personality disorder.
How come the deeply troubled women?
Yes.
Deeply, deeply troubled.
Right.
They're always the best in bed. You don't want to be with them for the long term, but for the short term, there's nothing like it.
I think another thing that bothers me about this movie is that it frames Harley Quinn and the Joker's relationship as 100% consensual and romantic and desirable. It does not show the abuse, and when it does show the abuse, it doesn't condemn it. Additionally, the movie's reason as to why Harley accepts the Joker's violence is because she's crazy rather than she was manipulated.
I'm just gonna hurt you. Really, really bad.
You think so? Well, I can take it.
This creates a narrative that suggests that mentally ill women invite or even enjoy violent, problematic behavior from their partners. And this can quickly get into a victim-blaming territory or the notion that mentally ill women want to be abused. Harley is also painted as the submissive property of the Joker or his pet. She wears a collar with his nickname on it. She literally has a shirt that says "Daddy's Little Monster." Ew. The movie makes Joker out to be a better guy than his track record shows. Rather than paint the Joker as a murderous, psychotic clown, he is shown in the same light that Harley has been shown in since the beginning of her inclusion in the DC universe. Both are willing to do whatever is necessary to be together. This doesn't just suck because it's not true to the characters. It can also be legitimately harmful. Romanticizing what we know to be an abusive relationship can muddle our understanding of what abuse is. It can lead impressionable viewers to think that this is a romantic and desirable relationship dynamic to have. So that's all pretty upsetting, but the good news is that more recent depictions of Harley Quinn have allowed her to separate from the Joker, recover from that relationship, and really shine as her own character. For example, Birds of Prey demonstrates Harley's road to recovery. It shows how she finds her true identity and who she is outside of the Joker. I think we can see it, for example, in her costuming. She's not nearly as sexualized. She's not wearing those underwear booty shorts that cannot be comfortable. Her outfits point to loud, unapologetic self-expression rather than making her a sexual object for the male gaze. Additionally, she fills her life with women who actually care about her. We know that social support plays an integral role in survivors of intimate partner violence's coping and recovery, and we see that Harley gets a support system by the end of this movie. She gets a hyena as a pet, she fights bad guys with her friends, and she even gets an apprentice. Harley being able to protect herself rather to rely on a man's authority improved her sense of self and autonomy, and it also revealed to her her true strength. In the second Suicide Squad movie, Harley really shows how much she's come into her own.
Defeat the beast.
Recently, I made a promise to myself that the next time I got a boyfriend, I'd be on the lookout for red flags, and if I saw any, I would do the healthy thing. And I would murder him. And killing kids, it's kind of a red flag. When your taste in men is as bad as mine, they don't just go away quietly. They slash your tires and they kill your dogs and tell you that the music you like ain't real music at all and tears you apart after a while.
She also has friends who go out of their way to make sure she's all right.
3, 2.
What are you guys doing?
Well, we're here to save you. It was a really good plan, too.
Well, I can go back inside and you can still do it.
The Harley Quinn TV show emphasizes her rejection of heteronormative toxicity. This encourages fans to remove themselves from toxic or abusive relationships and to embrace more open, equal, and fulfilling relationships. Harley's healthy relationship with Poison Ivy first helps her confront the Joker's toxicity.
So, this patient of mine, she's fixated on a murderous psychopath and won't end their relationship no matter how terribly he treats her.
Oh, easy. Classic abusive codependency. You just gotta show her there's no future with him and she needs to end it and find her own identity and...
Oh, I see. You're smart. I know. I'm you.
Then, it helps her gain the confidence to break up with him and find her own in Gotham as a woman separate from the Joker. However, this process wasn't without its hitches. As most victims of abusive relationships do, Harley momentarily goes back to the Joker. But Poison Ivy is there to keep her strong and act as her voice of reason.
What the fuck just happened?
It's important for victims of intimate partner violence to restore their confidence in their own abilities to achieve. By proving to herself that she can run Gotham, Harley restored her confidence in her abilities as a supervillain. In episode 5 of the show, Harley reframes her self-perception in the narrative of her life. Rather than the Joker being the one who created her when he pushed her into a vat of acid, which is widely considered her origin story, Harley instead frames the moment she freed herself from the Joker as her new beginning.
You didn't make me Joker, I made myself!
Later in the series, Ivy and Harley get together, and they continue to support each other as they grow into Gotham's biggest supervillains.
That's the cutest fucking thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
So, while Harley can at times be a tragic or over-sexualized character, her story has taken a more encouraging turn recently. She is in a much healthier relationship with Ivy, who is consistently there for her and helps her be the best, most evil version of herself. The heteronormative gender roles that dictated her previous relationship are not at work in her relationship with Ivy. Rather than trying to control Harley's growth so that she remains subservient, Ivy wholeheartedly supports Harley in her journey to take over Gotham.